What's up, everybody? It is a great day to break down all the preseason week 2 action with a focus on the most fantasy relevant takeaways. So, how high is too high to rank future Hall of Famer De'Zhaun Stribling? Can we actually be confident Kalen Black rising up the handcuff ranks? Fallout from an Ashton Jeanty injury that sounded horrific when it happened, but ended up only just being a sprained ankle. All that and much, much more. Starting with the Arizona Cardinals and ending with the Washington Commanders. So, with that, let's start off with Arizona. And I will say, guys, I think famous last words will be a little bit of a shorter video today because a lot of teams just went ahead and rested their starters out here, including the Arizona Cardinals. So Gardner Minshew, fine enough against what looks like an improved Dallas Cowboys defense. Fun fact, Gardner Minshew has made nearly $28 million in career earnings. Not bad for a former 6th-round pick, but yeah, right now, get healthy, Jeremiah Love, and that's about that. For the Atlanta Falcons, again, similar story. Pretty much everyone rested in this one, but not QB1 candidate, Jack Strand. Probably not, but you couldn't imagine. This dude is an undrafted rookie out of Minnesota State Moorhead, which I did not know was a school until the last several weeks. Call me a casual if you guys want to. I deserve it. He looks good, man. Someone called him Timu Josh Allen in my Twitter mentions. I thought that was pretty clever, but man's got a big arm, hit multiple deep downfield throws, also ran in for a 16-yard touchdown. That's fine and dandy. I hope Jack Strand winds up being a freaking amazing football player and has a luxurious 25-year career in the league, okay? Can we admit, though, Falcons fans, that if I told you a month ago that the biggest storyline out of your QB1 battle on August 24th is that Jack Strand looks pretty good out there? It's not ideal. Is that fair to say? I'm not saying Tua or Michael Penix, who is finally cleared to play some football again, couldn't have a good season, but not ideal, but hey, shout out Jack Strand. Also, Zachariah Branch actually made a pretty cool downfield catch on like a big boy deep out route. He's still looking like number 4 wide receiver behind Drake London, Olamide Zaccheaus, and Jahan Dotson. Seems like he's going to have to overcome Zaccheaus in a similar manner as Luther Burden last year. But hey, just good seeing Branch make a nice play after he was mostly being used on RPOs and screens throughout his time at Georgia. Up next, we got the Baltimore Ravens, where once again, pretty much every key player rested in this one. We did see Jacoby Lane early. It seems like he is going to be the front runner to have that number 3 wide receiver job. Maybe number 2, if we actually do wind up seeing Rashad Bateman face some suspension for his not so good real life acts off the field. I will say though, shout out Drew Davenport, had him on for the auction show that we did a little bit ago. And also he is a very much real life practicing lawyer and a cool dude. Usually takes my money when we play poker together, but that's a story for another day. Anyway, Drew, quote, "At this point, I believe Bateman is highly likely to play all of the 2026 season while this case is resolved. The information, however, is new and incomplete, so take that for what it's worth." Again, is what Bateman did good? Obviously not, but it's an ongoing case, and it's a situation where the NFL tends to drag their feet here, let the decision be made first in court unless public pressure becomes too much. Right now, I am with Drew. I do believe Rashad Bateman will play. Does that really impact the majority of fantasy leagues where Bateman and Jacoby Lane aren't being drafted anyway? Probably not, so I will digress there. Also note in this one, Adam Randall and Rasheen Ali were not out there, so still a little bit murky about who's going to be the actual early down handcuff behind Derrick Henry. I would say Adam Randall is a favorite right now. We saw him working as that sort of guy in week 1 of the preseason. But man, Baltimore, KC, Indianapolis, Dallas. I feel like there's one more I'm forgetting. Those 4 back. Oh, and Cincinnati. Okay. Baltimore, Cincinnati, Kansas City, Dallas, and Indianapolis. Those are like the 5 main backfields where I get why we're trying to really find out who's going to be the handcuff, but man, as much as we can have our leans for those situations, and in Baltimore, my lean would be Adam Randall. I do wonder if the most likely answer for who could be the handcuff is just no, because these are the sorts of teams who just, again, have so few, I should say, actual proven commodities in their backup running back rooms. I think they give Kareem Hunt a call. I think they call Arizona and they ask about James Conner for a 7th-round pick, things of that nature. Something to keep in mind when you are in the final rounds of these fantasy drafts. For the Buffalo Bills, they also rested the majority of their starters. So we got to see Kyle Allen out there slinging it after seeing some of the hits Josh Allen took last week. Honestly, this was fine by me. Did see Ray Davis turn 8 touches into 31 yards and a score. He continues to be an awfully sky-high handcuff, honestly, because Ty Johnson has not been practicing here for quite some bit. So Ray Davis, unlike some of those running backs I was talking about before from Indy, Baltimore, Dallas, etc., really is someone that I want to be prioritizing in the later rounds of fantasy drafts. Additional shout-out to Jamori Macklin. guys. That's right. Jeremy Macklin's cousin had a pair of big, fun plays on film. So, yeah, Jamori Macklin is a real person that exists. The more you know. Here's a team who did not rest their starters. That was the Carolina Panthers. And they actually got a little more going than last week, which was good to see. Bryce Young played 2 drives. Second one actually went 7 plays, 58 yards and a touchdown. Had nice intermediate strikes with Tedarrell McMillan and Tommy Trumbull around the way. Got out of the pocket too. Looked like the good version of Bryce Young, which is always great to see. In that backfield, it was the Jonathan Brooks show once again. Now, Dave Canales has said he's, quote, confident Chuba will be available for week 1, given that hamstring injury, but haven't gotten a ton of, news one way or another since it happened. In the meantime, though, it has been Jonathan Brooks, played all but 1 snap alongside Bryce Young on those first 2 drives. Didn't get all that much going. 5 carries, 18 yards. We did see the short goal line touchdown, which obviously sent Twitter into a fever pitch. I mean, it really is ridiculous, guys. It's football. Be excited, whatever. I'm not going to be that big of a hater, but is it okay to admit that, I don't know, I want to see a little more Jonathan Brooks? I know their O-line's banged up and the offense as a whole hasn't looked good. I think they've had 5 of these preseason drives with Bryce, 4 punts, and then this 1 touchdown. I would not say Brooks has looked like a game breaker out there. And it's his first 2 games off a knee injury. Maybe he's just waiting to ramp up in the regular season, but the idea behind Brooks was always, oh man, Chuba's banged up. Now we can run away with this job. I just wouldn't say he's done anything to really run away with the job. So as Chuba gets healthier, it's good to know that Brooks is, and that's probably the biggest takeaway here. We always say performance in preseason is one thing to look at, but we more so care about the ramifications and the findings we get for the depth chart. The biggest takeaway here is that Trevor Etienne is truly the number 3 back, not a threat to Jonathan Brooks. So if we do see Chuba miss time or Brooks starts playing better and he takes over the job, we could expect an RB1 viable workload, albeit given the offense. And if we're going to see Brooks, again, not exactly make the most out of his carries, it would make sense that RB1 level workload actually results in more RB2 level production. I haven't been clicking the guy in round 5 or 6 of fantasy drafts. I just love too many of the wide receivers going in that range, but certainly am drafting Brooks ahead of Chuba for the time being. At wide receiver, mentioned Tedarrell McMillan a little bit. He's getting used in the slot a lot, guys. And I'm so happy the Panthers are doing this because there was this kind of concern after Chris Brazzell got injured that, oh man, Xavier Legette, maybe he's a little better inside. Maybe it's going to keep T-Mac more so on the outside like we saw last season. Not the case, though, so far in the preseason. 40% of the time we have actually seen T-Mac working out of the slot. Just 16% of his plays had him on the inside of the formation last season. So good news there. Again, saw him getting the quick RPOs, getting matched up against, kind of underqualified corners because often you don't see the number 1 traveling into the slot. Really good stuff for Tedarrell McMillan. Firmly in play as a low-end wide receiver too. I'm clicking more guys like Jalen Waddle, Ladd McConkey, even Emeka Ibuka, but the toe injury is concerning me a little bit in that range, but I certainly get why people want to bet on the dude. Seems like a matter of more so when, not if, he is going to put together a really, really good NFL season. Only other note would be, Jimmy Horn had an explosive run, so shout out Jimmy Horn. And we also got Darren Waller resting, so nothing too much there in Carolina. On to the Chicago Bears. Got to drive a Caleb Williams out there, right? 8 played, 33 yards, had to settle for a field goal. There's been a lot of talk going on about Caleb missing a pass to Colson Loveland down the seam. He should have made the pass, all right? He's an NFL quarterback, and I know Caleb Williams, the completion rate is always going to be the big issue here. I will say, guys, it's not like there was no one within 30 yards of Colson Loveland, like I've kind of seen it made out to be. Like if you watch the play, actually, not to pull out the all 22 on you all, but seriously, if you do it and you kind of see when Caleb released the ball, Colson was literally neck and neck with the linebacker at that point. I thought it was kind of a decent, shot to try from an anticipatory standpoint. Obviously, get it down lower, complete the pass and everything. But it was, I think, 5 pass attempts for Caleb. Found Loveland and Odunze for some decent gains on 2 of them. Not really changing my entire opinion on the Bears because of 1 preseason drive. How's that for a hot take? Continue to get Roshan Johnson, clear number 3 RB, behind DeAndre Swift, who is resting, and Kyle Monangai coming back from that knee injury. I don't think it's any sort of a fantasy factor. Honestly, Salvin Ahmed has been looking probably like the better Bears running back, so we'll see what happens in that competition. Mentioned Odunze playing every snap with the ones. No Luther Burden, so it's J.P. Richardson, Khalif Raymond. I will just say, though, looking at this offense, in Chicago and Las Vegas are the 2 where just trying to rationally look at the personnel they have in their wide receiver and tight end rooms. I'm expecting a ton of multi-tight end, 12, 13 personnel looks out of these 2 offenses. And we've seen that so far in Chicago as well. 43% of their snaps so far this preseason have included multiple tight ends. Actually, I'm sorry. For the first team offense this week, which again, pretty small sample, only 8 plays that we're working with here, it was 43% multi-tight end formation. So, it was 33% last year. And again, given the sort of just wide receivers they have right here, like why would Khalif Raymond, who respectfully has done some fun things in Detroit over the years, but he is past 30. He is mostly a career return man wide receiver 4 specialist. I think Cole Kmet's going to play more often than Khalif Raymond. And hey, that's just good news because for Burden, for Adunze, and then also for Colston Loveland, like we would rather have someone like a Cole Kmet out there competing for targets. Also, there are other complementary and backup tight ends as well versus wide receivers like Xavier Thomas or Khalif Raymond. Mentioned Colston Loveland. I'm just happy he's okay, guys, because he caught a short, pass and got loose for maybe 14, 15 yards, but pretty brutal hip drop tackle there on the sideline. So NFL tends to not really call a flag in the heat of the moment on these things. They just find the guys a lot of money, the Friday afterwards. So hardly ideal there, but hey, again, seemingly did not get injured from the play. He stayed out there, didn't hear anything about a post game. Thank God Colston Loveland is okay in that one. But yeah, I think that wraps it up for the Bears. Now, for the Cincinnati Bengals, another team that, again, did rest most of their starters. Did see Eric All return to action. Didn't get a target or anything like that, but good to see there. If you did have to put a long-term chip on the Bengals actually finding an every down tight end, I do not think it'd be Tanner Hudson or Mike Gesicki. I do think it would be Eric All, but that's more so for your deeper Dynasty League junkies out there, and respect to you guys. The only 2 notable surprises that got to rest: number 2 running back, Samaje Perine, and then presumed number 3 wide receiver, Andre Yoshivas. There's a lot of numbers that say Yoshivas has just been the worst wide receiver in the NFL over the past couple of seasons, or at least the least efficient. And I understand cutting him some slack because his yards per route run, targets per route run, like those numbers are never going to be as good as they could be elsewhere when, you're competing with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase for targets and everything. But just, I would like to see what they have in Colby Young. They might have found some in this rookie guys from Georgia. He had to transfer around, doesn't have the best, history, personal conduct wise, if you dig into it. But man, 6'4", 218, sub 540. He moves well for someone this size. Caught a touchdown down the sideline, had another just deep out where you're watching the guy and you're like, oh man, you're doing that. That's 6'4", 218. Really popped off the screen for me there. Side note, great throw from Sean Clifford, the big red dog out there. Threw a dime in the corner of the end zone for a score out there. Not my best throw of the week. We'll get to that later, but certainly was, on the top 5. So Colby Young probably ahead of Mitchell Tinsley at this point as wide receiver 4. And if we continue to not get much out of Yoshivas, I do wonder if they really try to see what they have in Young at this point. With the Perine point, he would be the next man up. I get it. But again, do you really think if something happened to Chase Brown, the Bengals would just say, all right, Taj Brooks and Perine, it's your guys' backfield now. We're good otherwise. Maybe they would. Not having Najee Harris out there helps that. But man, Kareem Hunt and James Conner, those are the 2 really big fish out there that we continue to keep an eye on. But for now, Cincy, just please keep number 9 healthy and everything else should be fine. Before we get into the Cleveland Browns quarterback situation, fantasy drafts are going on, guys. And if you do want just a little bit of help along the way, really do invite you to use code IAN35 to get 35% off a RotoWire subscription. You can get all my expert ranks along with the rest of the RotoWire crew, all my articles that, again, are including my favorite draft strategies and also just my ultimate draft strategy, favorite, Yahoo picks, ESPN, the whole 9 yards there. So out here grinding, as is the rest of RotoWire crew. So many different tools, again, from injuries to depth charts to a live draft assistant and much more throughout the season, like waiver wires and start sit goodness. So really just trying to be you guys a one-stop shop for all things fantasy. And hey, if that's not enough for you, supporting the show really would help a lot. So IAN35 for any of our subscription options. Really appreciate you guys. And now back to the show. The Cleveland Browns. I'm recording this on Monday morning. They did end up going ahead and announcing that Deshaun Watson is going to be the starter, despite him playing a pretty horrific half of football, and then also kind of criticizing the fans that booed him, calling it personal, and mentioning how he was getting, cheered when he got injured, which never want to cheer for anyone who gets injured. But if you had to pick someone, I could see why the Cleveland Browns dog pound happened to pick Deshaun. I just think it comes down to this. Shador has obviously not been a great quarterback in his own right. Has he been better than Deshaun? I would say yes, but if you start Shador and he struggles and then you go to Watson, that just seems like now you're kind of giving up on Shador, right? Whereas if you start Watson and then you go to Shador, now you're giving him the chance to really go out for the stretch run. The only reason why Watson is still on this team is because if they wait to release him by March, they can spread out the cap hit over multiple seasons. If they did it now, it would be a more egregious dead money sum. That's my understanding, at least in terms of the cap ramifications. So that's the only reason why I guess you can't say the sunk cost fallacy. Sunk cost, by the way, everyone. If you didn't, get it, pick up the term in your econ class. If I buy a $50 ticket to a concert on Wednesday and then Wednesday comes around and it's pouring down rain, my dog died, my wife says she hates me. If there's like all of a sudden a lot more reasons for me not to go to that concert, I should now use the new information and basically say, okay, I paid $50, but that's a sunk cost. Okay. I shouldn't let that $50 fully now be the reason why I still go to this concert instead of dealing with all this other stuff in my life. So sure, I could have pulled out a more reasonable example for you guys, but yeah. So again, that would be the thing with De'Zhaun. The idea that it would be a sunk cost fallacy is just the thought that, hey, we paid him so many guaranteed dollars in the first place. We need to see if he's got it because we did this in the first place, not looking at the present moment and saying, well, clearly our football team is better off without the guy. So it's not letting past decisions impact your future when you have new information presenting itself. So I thought Shedeur actually gave a real nice showing for himself in this preseason game. By the way, he had a lot of really clean pockets. So I wouldn't, instantly say that's a sign that, oh my gosh, everything's going to be great now. But, 74 yards and touchdown on 9 of 11 passing. Did throw an interception. That was a little bit behind his guy, but we're in the NFL. It hits your right side of the body in your hands. It's not ideal you had to turn for it, but it was officially ruled a drop by PFF for what it's worth and then intercepted. So good stuff from Shedeur. Again, he's talked about basically he feels good about his off-script ability. It's just making the easy look easy out there. And at least for one day against the Buffalo Bills, he did manage to do just that. So yeah, next week we are going to get to see Taylon Green, the Arkansas freak athlete finally. So looking forward to that one. Not looking so much forward to Deshaun Watson and this offense in weeks 1 and 2. They get the Jaguars in Jacksonville, Duval County, week 1. And then in Tampa Bay in week 2. It'd be kind of fitting if Baker Mayfield got to put that final nail in the Deshaun Watson coffin. Just saying. Backfield-wise, Dylan Sampson got to sit, clear next man up behind Quinshon Judkins. It was Rocket Sanders as the lead man over, their other backs. Otherwise, wide receiver, Casey Concepcion and Jerry Jeudy also rested, so it was Denzel Boston. That's the only presumed starter out there in this one. KC remains a top target for me. If we are going to be able to pick anyone in this Browns offense to have some level of, reasonable upside about, I would think it's the guys who you can most easily get the football to. The way his offense is set up, that would be Casey Concepcion and Harold Fannin, who also rested in this one. Dallas Cowboys continue to rest their starters as well, but we saw some fun performances, man. Joe Milton went out there, actually put some touch on the pass. He was doing good things off script, actually looking like a good NFL quarterback. So there's been a handful of, preseason games. We had the 1 week 18 game for the Patriots where he was making plays as well. Could be something there, guys. At a minimum, very, very fun watch. And I look forward to seeing Milton again, hopefully in more preseason games as the years goes on. But good stuff from Milton. Again, he found actually Jonathan Mingo for a deep pass down the sideline, rocking the TO 81 out there. And then also Camden Brown had another nice game. Very, very nice. I should say 69-yard catch and run after Milton extending the play as well. So Cowboys with these backup wide receivers, man, just finding one after another. Good for those guys. The most fantasy relevant note would be Malik Davis pretty much taking over for Jaden Blue as the RB2. I'm not anointing him completely, but hey, first 2 drives of the game, it was Malik Davis playing 13 of 15 snaps before resting for all but 1 pass pro snap the rest of the way. So the fact he wasn't completely done is a little bit wonky to me, but again, did not see Jaden Blue for more than 2 snaps in the first 2 drives of the game. Jaden did look better. He hit 1, if not even 2 hurdles. They were kind of around the line of scrimmage, so kind of tough to see on the old film. But yeah, 15 carries, 75 yards. I mean, no one was getting much going last week other than Malik. So at least we did actually get Jaden doing that. I do just still think that because Jaden Blue was a rookie last year, people refuse to look at this rationally. I mean, Malik Davis is the one that caught the touchdown, average 5.8 yards per carries out there. I mean, if Jaden Blue had done either of those things, I just feel like we as a society of deranged fantasy nerds and virgins will be freaking out a little bit more. Also, shout out to Phil Maffa. Had like a reverse the field 15-yard touchdown on his only carry of the day. So who is the leader in this committee right now? I think it's Malik Davis, but it'll probably be a committee. if something happened to Javonte Williams, and also probably happened, the Cowboys will call another team for another running back, because we're talking about 3 freaking NPCs here in Malik Davis, Jaden Blue, and Phil Maffa in the first place. Denver Broncos. Bo Nix back from the ankle surgery and looked good, man. 10 points in 2 drives. Threw a lovely wheel route to RJ Harvey for a touchdown from 22 yards out. Also found Jalen Waddle for a chunk play down the seam. Fun first team usage going on for his Denver Broncos offense. So Bo Nix, guys, again, one of many reasons why I just love waiting on quarterback this year, because you will be in drafts where Bo Nix is literally the 13th or 14th quarterback off the board. And if you're in a league of, actual gentlemen who don't want to just stack up and take 2 or 3 quarterbacks immediately, sometimes that 13th or 14th quarterback can actually fall to round 12, to round 13 or so. So it is, again, one of those things where, based on the ADP and how a lot of drafts unfold, if I miss out on the Bo Nixes, on the Brock Purdy's of the world, which I'm telling you guys is not always the case, I think Jared Goff and Kyler Murray are a great kind of break glass in case of emergency pair of late round quarterbacks to get, but you usually don't even have to do that. I would say Brock Purdy and Bo Nix are the 2 late round quarterbacks that you still often see emerge. But yeah, shout out RJ Harvey. Again, looked good on that wheel route. Saw Jonah Coleman come in, but it was the RJ Harvey show, at least for those first 2 drives with Bo Nix under center. We'll see what happens in terms of him being involved in the pass downs. Now, we still have not seen J.K. Dobbins. He is fully expected to be the RB1 y'all in Denver, but if Harvey's to go out there, improve, catch 50 or 60 passes, he is going to make all the faders, aka me, look even more dumb than usual by the time this season is over. Still someone, again, more of a mid-tier RB3 for me. I do question the best case upside here, but Jonah Coleman's still very much involved, but seeing Harvey do good things as a receiver, that is firmly his path to putting forward a great year too. At wide receiver, mentioned the Waddle, looked fun, on that 35-yard catch and run. 66% of his snaps were in the slot. Now, again, I think it was 4 of 6, so it's a small sample size here, but that could be fun, guys. Only 18% of his snaps were in the slot in Miami, and just given the fact you have Cortland Sutton and Pat Bryant on the outside, Waddle's body type would make a little more sense to get inside in the slot. So could get a lot more of the screens and underneath stuff that he mostly made a living on in year 1. And then we'll also get some of the downfield stuff, as we saw today and as we saw throughout the rest of his career in Miami when playing alongside Tyreek Hill. So very, very much, very, very high on Jalen Waddle as the preseason continues to go on. Priority pick for me in rounds 4 and 5. Haven't gone on my way to click either Cortland Sutton or Pat Bryant. At tight end, Evan Ingram, 63% route rate, first 4 drives. You guys can find better late round tight ends. I will say, if my tight end situation goes awry, I don't get Bowers in round 2. I don't get Loveland in round 4. I haven't been loving the mid-round picks. Now we got Laporta banged up. We got Tucker Kraft apparently on a snap count for the first bit of the year. Not feeling too good about Kyle Pitts or Harold Fannon's offenses. For me, pairing up Dallas Goedert with Terrence Ferguson would probably be the route that I'm trying to go. Again, using 2 late-round picks in the position, but when you're going true late-round tight end and true late-round quarterback, and you're not taking one to round 11, you're going to have just, if the math is mathing, everyone, we're talking 4 running backs and 6 wide receivers, or 5 running backs and 5 wide receivers already, to the point that, yeah, you can double click them because you're pretty much already set those positions anyway. And certainly we'll be feeling better about the tight ends, relative to the running backs going at that spot of the draft. So just something to keep in mind if you do fall behind at tight end. Yeah, not quite getting to it, Mr. Evan Ingram. Detroit Lions did not play pretty much any of their starters in this one. Only exception was Isaac Tesla. 0 targets on 16 routes in this one. He is now one of just 3 wide receivers in this entire preseason to run at least 25 routes and have 0 receptions. So, yeah, not great. So we'll see what happens. Sam Laporta being a little bit banged up with that hip injury could obviously lead to more for Tesla, but I don't know, guys. Monroe St. Brown, Jameson Williams, Jahmyr Gibbs. It's just a situation where even if Laporta is going to be missing time, which is not a guarantee by any stretch of the imagination, really have a hard time getting too excited about Tesla as more than, a touchdown-dependent wide receiver 5 type. Also, shout out to Joshua Dobbs, had a 50-yard touchdown run in this economy, no less. Green Bay Packers, we had Jordan Love out there for 1 drive, drove 12 plays, 63 yards, 11-yard touchdown strike to Marshawn Lloyd. We got Marshawn Lloyd touchdown. Been waiting 3 years for this. It was a cool one, too. Looked like he was the first read. Gave the linebacker a little Marshawn Lloyd, man. Now, we did have Chris Brooks in there. We did not have Chris Brooks in the previous game. In the previous game, it was Marshawn Lloyd every single snap alongside, the starting offense. This one, in 3 drives, Marshawn Lloyd plays 71% of snaps and Chris Brooks played 29%. Again, didn't see a ton from Lloyd on the ground. And it's been, to keep, call a spade, Brooks and Lloyd on the ground have not been that impressive. Now, they're coming back from injuries. They're getting their feet under them. This is what the preseason is for. So I'm not putting too much concern behind that. The usage does matter more. And like Brooks, with Lloyd, we can be very confident that he is set up to be the clear number 2 RB behind Josh Jacobs. We are seeing Jacobs return from that groin injury. It doesn't seem like it's going to be any sort of an issue in terms of his playing time. And I do believe that we're probably going to see Jacobs out there for 17 games. Again, just doesn't seem like a situation based on the information we know now that it is going to be, a legal issue or suspension risk for Josh Jacobs as it gets going. But man, every draft is a great draft to draft Marshawn Lloyd. You can trademark that, if anyone wants to help me out there. Josh Jacobs, though, too. Round 3, I'm okay with it. If you can get him around 4 or 5, sure, but we'll talk about the Jeanty injury. We're just quickly, guys, running out of running backs to feel all that great about. Ideally, I want 2 running backs in the first 3 rounds if they're the right running backs. And I do consider Javonte Williams and Josh Jacobs a right running back in round 3 because I believe in the Cowboys and Packers offenses. And I think both guys could push for 15 touchdowns and should not even surprise us. They're getting this weird dead zone rap because maybe they're not threats to catch 80 passes, but I don't know. That's a little bit of a stretch for guys like Breece Hall and Jeremiah Love as well, given their injuries, given their offenses, given the potential for it to be at least a little bit more of a committee than we're expecting there. So I don't know. To me, upside is also scoring a shit ton of offenses and a really good offense, and that does apply for both Javonte and Josh Jacobs. But yeah, Marshawn Lloyd feeling very, very good right there. Wide receiver, Christian Watson, Matthew Golden started alongside Love. Each got a catch on Pat Surtain. Surtain knocked the ball out of Watson's hands, I think, as his knee was going on the ground after he did haul it in. Also laid him the hell out on the sideline. Absolute dog. But yeah, good stuff from both guys, man. I mean, actually, the Golden catch was on Surtain, kind of crossing the field. All right. Maybe it wasn't the most ethical one-on-one beater. Not gonna be singing songs about it one day and everything. But, 4th down, getting that chemistry, getting that trust from Jordan Love. Very good to see. Your guys' homework this week is every fantasy draft you're in to come away with at least 1 Packers wide receiver. The fact that none of these dudes are priced as even a wide receiver 2 really, really is great. And that's kind of how I go in drafts. I went through my video, kind of my favorite pick in every round of Yahoo drafts. And yes, I do love Christian Watson in round 6, but if I don't get him, my attention goes to Jaden Reed. If I don't get Jaden Reed, my attention goes to Matthew Golden. I'm also not against taking 2 guys. I do think the Packers wide receivers as a whole, arguably the most mispriced wide receiver room in fantasy football. Tight end Tucker Kraft got the night off. Get healthy, my man. Houston Texans, guys, had 1 drive from C.J. Stroud and the starting offense. Very nice 10-play, 69-yard touchdown. Mostly just dinked and ducked it down the field. But hey, didn't turn the ball over, which is a pretty good step in the right direction for C.J. Stroud based on the last time we saw him. The real star of the show, was Woody Marks. Rocking number 4 this year, guys. No longer 27. I think he was 4 at USC as well. So hopefully more comfortable as ever. Certainly looked to be the case out there. So he had, 43 yards on 5 touches, a cool 20-yard touchdown run. And then we're getting reports afterwards saying even if it's not going to be 50-50, it is going to be a pretty close split between Woody Marks and David Montgomery. So if you guys have been listening to me throughout the better part of his last 2 months, first of all, thank you. Really do appreciate it. But second of all, it's just been going back and forth on Monty, guys. Unlike Javonte Williams, unlike Josh Jacobs, Monty is someone with stiffer RB2 competition in the form of Marks, I would say. We've seen the Cowboys and Packers lean on Javonte and Jacobs very, very much so. Haven't gotten the new incumbent competition. You could talk about Lloyd versus Jacobs, but you get what I'm saying. Marks and Monty could be closer. The pass down stuff could also be an issue for Monty. Not that he can't catch, but it could be more so the way they use Woody. And the offense. I mean, if we had to rank those 3 offenses, I think consensusly, like who do we expect to score more points this year? We would say the Cowboys, the Packers, and then easily the Texans. Maybe you think the Packers could outscore the Cowboys. Fine. Every single person listening to me right now would pick the Houston Texans to be 3rd behind the Packers and Cowboys. So now Monty is cheaper accordingly. I do think in round 5, if you don't have that second running back yet, I would like to get exposure, but man, I would prefer DeAndre Swift and Travis Etienne over Dave Montgomery, if possible, to do so in the round 4 or 5 range of drafts. Woody Marks, great RB4, who again had 15 plus touches, and I think 8 of his last 11 games last year. So like they were happy to feed him a pretty big workload. Did he make the most out of it? No, but the offensive line also sucked. And we don't give Woody Marks the same benefit of the doubt as we give guys like Ashton Jeanty and Quinshon Judkins, who, yes, are better. But, if Houston does figure it out a little bit more, like those other offenses, then our hopes for them, it would be good for Woody Marks. So still the RB2, but again, maybe, just maybe, we're a 55-45 split and then still have some very nice handcuff upside for one Woody Marks. Over in that wide receiver room, we had Xavier Hutchinson out there as the main dog. They went ahead and signed those Sterling Shepard and Zay Jones on Friday to help replace Jaden Higgins, who's out for the season with a torn ACL. Why can't we have nice things? Tank Dell, apparently, while he has been back at practice and doing something, still not really being out there with team. Seems like it's this situation where they're still kind of ramping him up, not quite ready to release him. So Jalen Noel is someone who, again, the best of my knowledge that I can try to see with these reports, is surprisingly back at practice despite dealing with multiple injuries as recently as a week ago. So I would say the most likely answer to all this, though, is just Nico Collins going freaking bonkers, guys. So I do have Nico ranked ahead of Mr. Drake London. I love the idea of getting Nico at that round 2-3 turn in drafts. And that's how it sets up pretty nicely, guys. Again, if I do have my pick of draft positions, I do want to be picking inside the first 5 picks. I think it's a little bit of a fall off after you get past Jamar and Puka, as well as the big 3 running backs. So in an ideal world, if I'm building my perfect draft, I get Jahmyr Gibbs, 101. I get Brock Bowers falling back to me at the end of round 2. And then I have one of A.J. Brown, Nico Collins, Drake London. Chance all those guys are gone. I accept that. Okay, then we go to Malik Neighbors or Chris Olave. I'm fine with that start. And then hopefully round 4, round 5, we go ahead and get DeAndre Swift most likely as our RB2 there. Tight end, didn't see Dalton Schultz. Yeah, he's got a little bit of a bump with Jaden Higgins, but, Dalton Schultz, give me a break. Indianapolis Colts, once again, pretty much resting all parties involved. Got a few, fun plays from Anthony Richardson. They keep dropping this guy's passes as well. So I do lean into the idea that some quarterbacks throw a more catchable ball than others. We've all caught footballs before. We can all also see with our very own eyes when J.J. McCarthy throws it 120 miles per hour from the 5-yard line. Maybe that's not quite as bad of a drop, as just someone getting it put right in the breadbasket. But either way, Anthony Richardson doing fun things in the preseason, and for that, we thank you. Only real meaningful fantasy note, though, was Seth McGowan continuing to receive the number 2 RB work. This was, though, again, with DJ Giddens dealing with the hamstring injury and out of the picture, but, the more we have to keep updating these backup running backs being injured and not in the picture, it makes you think, okay, well, the guy who is healthy probably does have a chance to more so run away with that job. So Seth McGowan, if you are in these deeper drafts, we would expect him to be the next man up behind Jonathan Taylor. I just look at this organization, again, Indy, Baltimore, Dallas, Kansas City, Cincinnati. I think the handcuff to Jonathan Taylor might not even be on the roster right now. We saw them bring in Phillip Rivers last year. We just saw them sign Keenan Allen. You think they would look at rookie Seth McGowan, second-year DJ Giddens, and say, we're fine? I don't. So 19th, 20th round pick, sure, fine. Just wouldn't get too excited. Jacksonville Jaguars, similar sentiment. They are not playing anybody right now. But we saw 33-year-old Amir Abdullah, freaking 11 years after he had that unreal. You guys might not even remember this. Now I'm just feeling old myself. But Abdullah against the Jets in like 2013 or 2015, I don't know when it was at this point, had this sick 45-yard touchdown run. Like put his foot in the ground, exploded upfield. ADP rose 3 rounds. Still out there doing the damn thing, man. 33-year-old Amir Abdullah. Really fun 23-yard run. Still out there. Was it 2024 fantasy playoff hero, Amir Abdullah? He was like a top 10 RB on some dead-in-the-water Raiders team. Shout out Amir Abdullah. That's all I wanted to say. Also wanted to say, shout out to our friends over at DraftKings. We'll be right back after this quick break.
Fantasy football season is right around the corner, and DraftKings is bringing you their biggest best ball contest ever. We're talking a massive $20 million in total prizes, making this the largest best ball tournament in DraftKings history. And this year, not just 1, but 3 players are going to walk away as millionaires. And right now, our partners at DraftKings are giving all customers a can't-miss offer. Draft 1, get 1. Enter a lineup in the $20 million best ball contest for just $25, and you'll receive a bonus best ball ticket to play again free for a share of $20 million, giving you a second shot to be crowned a millionaire. It's simple. Just draft your team once, no weekly management, Let your top scorers automatically start each week. Every breakout star, every clutch play, and every touchdown counts towards your shot at a share of $20 million. Download the DraftKings Daily Fantasy app and enter a lineup for the $20 million best ball contest for just $25 and get a bonus ticket to play free for another shot to win big. That's 2 shots without ever setting your lineups again in DraftKings' biggest best ball contest ever. Draft one, get one, only on DraftKings. The crown is yours in partnership with DraftKings. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. New York, call 877-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Connecticut, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. 18 plus in most states. Restrictions apply. 1 per customer. Enter the Best Ball 20 million headliner contest to get 1 bonus entry. $25 entry fee required. Reward expires at contest lock September 9th, 2026. See terms at DraftKings.com/promotions. Sponsored by DraftKings.
Keeping on with the Kansas City Chiefs, who rested most of their starters, but we do have some backup situations to continue monitoring, and we did get some updates there. Starting off with the running back room, Kenneth Walker actually did get carries on the first 2 plays of the game, and they said go ahead and chill. One of them, he reverse field, broke a tackle, and gained 2 yards. Very eerily similar to what we saw in Seattle. But look, K9 is the clear running back here in KC, but Amari DiMercato was the next man up on the only 3rd and long on that first drive with Kenneth Walker, and then was the only running back to play alongside Justin Fields in the 2nd and 3rd drives. He then rotated with Emmett Johnson throughout the rest of the first 3 quarters. So it wasn't like DiMercato played with Fields and then just got the day off as well. He continued rotating with Emmett Johnson until the 4th quarter, and then we saw Brashard Smith. It was basically the opposite of what happened last week. Emmett Johnson kind of did the same thing again, playing throughout at least the first, 3 quarters of the game. Last week, it was we didn't see DiMercato until the 4th quarter. We saw Brashard Smith earlier on. Johnson continued to break tackles. He's got a preseason high 12 forced missed tackles this preseason. I still lean him being the handcuff. I know he can catch passes. This was a little damning. First 8 drives of the game, DiMercato played 8 third downs, just 1 for Emmett Johnson. So, again, it's Emmett Johnson. I don't think anyone's going too crazy with it. You shouldn't be, at least at that point. As long as Kareem Hunt remains a free agent, I think if we did see disaster strike with Kenneth Walker, they re-signed Kareem Hunt to be their short yardage and maybe some early down back. Emmett Johnson's like their between the 20s sort of guy. And then maybe we do actually get Amari DiMercato still chipping in on pass downs. Brashard Smith, more of the gadget. Things to consider. Wide receiver room, Tyquan Thornton, Jalen Royals, and Cyrus Allen started. Tyquan Thornton did get the day off after, pretty much 2 drives. Also was firmly out there in the heavy multi-tight end personnel sets. Not so much for Cyrus Allen. So that would be the one kind of issue here because it was, let's see. Yeah. Something about, I think it was 18 snaps with multiple tight ends on the field while Cyrus Allen was in the game. He only played 3 of them. So, if he makes the most of his other snaps, it'll be okay. But this dude is 5'11", 180 pounds. We've seen some very fun camp highlights, but that is the sort of archetypal wide receiver who we would expect to, be doing more things when the pads aren't exactly popping there out there in a live game situation. So Cyrus had a better week 1 in the preseason. I'm not completely writing him off, but man, if you want to go down another ridiculous theoretical kind of question thing, if we took an alien who knows nothing about football, made him watch Cyrus Allen and Jalen Royals this past weekend, they would tell you that Jalen Royals was the better football player. He looked good out there, guys. Now, the way it looks to me is that Jalen Royals is the backup to Rashee Rice. I think Cyrus Allen is the backup to Xavier Worthy, and Andrew Armstrong is probably Tyquan Thornton's number 2. Can you guys just trade for Kayshon Boutte already, please? Or Houston? That'd be another cool one. Jalen Royals looked really good, though. Had a couple catches where just making dudes miss, multiple guys looking twitchy out there. Really seemed to come together for him. He was someone who was getting a lot of hype last year as well. If something happened to Rashee Rice, guys, I'm assuming Cyrus Allen would be on the cover of all the waiver wires, but the sharp move potentially could actually be one Jalen Royals. So I'm not drafting either of these guys right now, but something to consider because as we know with, Rashee Rice, not necessarily someone we should always be expecting to play 17 games throughout the course of a season. Las Vegas Raiders, here we go. Quarterback situation. Kirk Cousins got the night off. Fernando Mendoza wound up playing the entire first half. Still saw some nice throws. Also saw a pick six. Seemed a little bit of the miscommunication variety. I think he believed Mike Washington was going to sit on his check down. Washington kind of started to leak out more to his right. Wound up being that pick six. Head coach Clint Kubiak did decline to name a starter in the postgame. Still think it's very much going to be Kirk Cousins. I prefer it to be Mendoza because I just think he's going to learn more from being out there on the field than on the bench. I am also not a professional football coach, contrary to popular belief. So all in all, still think Mendoza is going to be good. If there was something to pick apart, though, in his collegiate profile, it was a play under pressure. And look, every quarterback is worse under pressure. All right. So when that's kind of the first thing you're going to, yeah, but there are degrees to it. And his pressure to sack rate, and all that is how many sacks you're taking on pressure dropbacks. It really did spike in the last handful of games of the season against much stiffer competition. So it did seem like there were times where, again, under pressure, maybe drops his eyes, tries to move around, kind of, and then, against NFL pass rushes, going to be a little bit tougher to replicate that. So yeah, got sacked, a time or two out there as well. Behind that Raiders offensive line, you do wonder how well they're going to hold up. And that's been another thing with these reports. Like they want to bring Mendoza along slowly, not just for him, but also get the rest of the offense in a good enough place before he's out there. I continue to think it is going to be week 6 after they get throttled by the Patriots in Foxborough. Now for the backfield. Mike Washington, another fun play. Kind of got tied up behind the line, but no, he wasn't. He leaked right through, exploded in the secondary, fun 33-yard run. Also has an 85% snap rate with the starting offense. Dylan Labe, very much the clear number 3 RB. So if we did, again, I did a video on this last week. If we saw every single starting RB take a season-long vacation, number 2 RBs, ranking them in fantasy land. I had Mike Washington 9th. Honestly, though, if you wanted to put him as high as probably 6th, I would be okay with it. So I think he's behind Tank Bigsby and Ray Davis, the Steelers guys, Blake Corum, Travion Henderson as well, given just how much better we feel about the roles and offenses associated with those guys. But after that, man, I certainly can see why people will be hyped about it. And now for Ashton Jeanty. Sunday night, everyone losing their mind. Jeanty hurts his knee in practice. We're hurt. He couldn't put any weight on it. Practice stopped. But the power of prayer, everyone, made it not even a knee injury. Made it just an ankle sprain. And Ashton Jeanty not seemingly dealing with a long-term issue. The question is how long? Checking the old Twitter sphere right now. Travion Henderson got injured. You gotta be freaking kidding me. After slipping during a cut. Jeez. Chuba Hubbard practicing in full. Good to know. Still nothing as I record this at 12:30 on the exact length of the Ashton Jeanty injury. It's not good. We can all agree on that. The question is how far to move him down the ranks. I don't think you can take him at the round 1-2 turn now. We can't just say nothing happened. I'm very, very thankful that he's not going to be out for the season. But high ankle sprains can sideline dudes for a month and a half. It could be pup. We have no idea right now. And if you're drafting tonight or tomorrow, I mean, I wouldn't assume he's going to be out there in week 1, guys. I see both sides of this. I was talking to Pat Mayo and Jake Seeley today, so maybe they're influencing me. But man, as things stand right now, with so much out in the open, I would think a 4 to 6 week injury makes sense. Again, it's good it's an ankle issue. It's not this devastating season-ending knee. What if he needs tightrope surgery? We have no idea. There's a lot of different ankle problems. And a sprain is relatively okay, but there can be some really bad sprains as well. I don't know that I want to be using a top 2-round pick on an injured running back in what's probably going to be a really bad offense right now. I haven't been worried about Mike Washington actively eating into Jeanty's workload when I thought Jeanty was 100% healthy. This isn't going to help that. If you're at the round 2-3 turn, do you want Jeanty or do you want Malik Neighbors, Chris Olave, Devontae Smith-Njigba? You take Josh Allen or Ashton Jeanty? Javonte Williams and Josh Jacobs or Ashton Jeanty? Do we just put Jeanty in the Breece Hall, Jeremiah Love tier? That's kind of what I'm leaning right now. If he's okay and it's like, yeah, no, we have no concern for week one. Okay, that's fine. I can get that. But we're being forced to operate without a ton of information right now. We might not get it because the teams don't have to give it right now. Oh, what a disaster. This freaking season, man, already. If I was at the end of round 3, okay, let's do it. I got Jeanty, though, next to some other guys where it's the same thing. Emeka Ibuka, Luther Burden, Rashee Rice, just because I'm low on him. But in your heart of hearts, who scores more PPR points this year, Javonte Williams or Ashton Jeanty? 100% Ashton Jeanty. Okay, I would lean him as well. And that's why I had him ranked higher. But he's not 100% now. He's dealing with an ankle injury that we don't know how long is going to keep him out. I'll think on it more. You can continue to find the updated ranks over at rotowire.com, but it's not good. It's not good, guys. Wide receiver situation in Vegas. Malik Benson playing every snap alongside Mendoza. Got a little bit of a shot from, I guess not so much him, probably more so Jalen Naylor from Kubiak, but seems like right now Trey Tucker is the only guy that Kubiak actually believes in this wide receiver room. So Jack Bash, only 38% route rate in drives 1 through 3. Trey Tucker locked in as number 1 wide receiver. And also Michael Mayer getting starters rest alongside Brock Bowers. So I mentioned it in the Bears section here, but Bears and Raiders really, really do think it's going to be pretty much living in 12 personnel, even more so the Raiders, man, just given the state of this sad wide receiver room. Los Angeles Chargers got Justin Herbert for 3 plays. He handed the ball off. He threw a 9-yard completion to Charlie Kohler and then missed Ladd McConkey down the seam. So, saw Trey Lance running around afterwards. That was cool, but very limited action overall from the starting offense. However, we got Omar and Hampton every play alongside Herbert. And intriguingly, Keaton Mitchell was the next man up and played every snap of drives 2 and 3 before Kamani Vidal entered the game. Keaton Mitchell actually had a very fun, 20, 22-yard wheel down the sideline. We saw it throughout practice. Now we saw it in a real game. Got called back by a penalty, but still good to see that the Chargers are leaning into that sort of thing. Unfortunate. Big part of the equation here is that Tyler Beatties, I believe his name is, excuse me if I messed that up, their starting center is out for the season. So injuries already starting to happen for Los Angeles. And the interior of the offensive line was the part where we were hoping McDaniel should be able to work around that. They have their 2 sweet tackles. Everything else should be fine. Now all of a sudden they're going to have Sergeant Jake Slaughter, the rookie out of Florida, I believe, starting at center to start the year. So maybe he's a gem and everything will be fine. I'd like to think McDaniel can scheme around it, but not ideal, guys. Rashawn Slater hasn't been practicing as he's managing his knee thing. It's happening again. It's happening again. Why is it happening again? Oh, my. McConkey, Brennan Thompson, they were the main starters of Quentin Johnson and Trey Harris on the sideline. Thompson got a little bit banged up. I believe he was still out there. But, yeah, cool to see that he's wide receiver 4. Did just lead the entire freaking SEC in receiving yards after all. And then at tight end. So first 2 drives, it was Charlie Kohler, 89% snaps, and David Njoku, 56% snaps. We did not see Oronde Gadsden until drive 3. No, we cannot be feeling great about Oronde Gadsden. That said, at this point, Terrence Ferguson is the one flying up draft boards for good reason. And we don't have evidence, the same evidence, I should say, that Ferguson is going to be the 3rd man up in Los Angeles. But he basically was last year behind Colby Parkinson. And when he was healthy, Tyler Higbee. And the way drafts are going, man, I'm just imagining that Ferguson's going earlier than Gadsden more times than not. I think they're pretty similar bets. Their offenses with wide receiver situations where we can envision a de facto wide receiver 3 role for the guy. They both play in Los Angeles. They're both year 2 players who possess some actual downfield receiving ability. The major question for both is just the route rate. But if we knew Gadsden and Terrence Ferguson were going to have 75% route rates this season, both guys would easily be inside the top 10, probably pushing, we'd have trendy dudes trying to be different, ranking them tight end 5, tight end 4 even. We've seen more evidence from Gadsden that he's not going to have that, so I understand being more excited about Ferguson. But, hey, if Gadsden is free at the end of drafts, guys, he's just one of these tight ends where Dalton Schultz has a good game in week 1. All right. It's not going to change much about the future projection of Dalton Schultz. If Oronde Gadsden goes out there in week 1 and we say, oh, he actually is out there. They're using this guy more than Trey Harris. He's, 68% of the routes. Gadsden's going to be the one flying up the ranks. I think that fact's been a little bit underappreciated. Los Angeles Rams basically rested their entire team once again, including Terrence Ferguson. Good transition there. Credit to Stetson Bennett, throw of the week. It was a 4th-and-1 play, receiver kind of cutting across the middle. He had a player trailing him, had another player coming over the top, and had like a third dude on the sideline. Because it was 4th-and-1, Stetson had to try this freaking crazy throw, and he hit it. Good for the Georgia product. Still not happy about him ruining my New Year's couple years ago, but that's not the here nor there. Jarquez Hunter looked pretty good with his opportunities. Was it a random preseason game? The fact he's even playing in it, not a good sign for his production this year. Yes, but hey, Jarquez Hunter still made some guys miss. And CJ Daniels, man, he earned like 13 targets out there. Had put a couple good routes out there. Again, not going to be a factor this year, but either way, good for him. Miami Dolphins also rested the heavy majority of their players. Update on the backfield. Last week, it was like 16-2 snaps in favor of Wright for the first half because they benched Ollie Gordon after he got a taunting penalty. He was back to his usual role in this one. So in the first half, Jalen Wright, 14 snaps, 6 touches. Ollie Gordon had 12 snaps and 5 touches. That said, Wright lost a fumble, then Ollie Gordon got a rib injury. So look, it's still an offense that's likely going to be bad. I think we would probably put them in our consensus bottom 5 groups ahead of this season. And all the same issues that we have for Devon Achane would also apply to these guys. So yeah, not really trying to go out of my way for either guy at the end of drafts, unless we do hear that Gordon actually is dealing with something more serious. So we'll keep a faint eye on that. On the other note, cool catch on a slot fade by Kevin Coleman and Chris Bell. Shed the non-contact jersey, guys. Love me some Chris Bell. If we had to rank like the best single game performances from a wide receiver in college football last season, Chris Bell versus Miami, man, that would probably be my pick for one. Casey Concepcion did some nasty things to that Notre Dame secondary as well. And, getting some wins on Leonard Moore and stuff I get it. That's awesome. But, Chris Bell, you watch him enough, man. You see the A.J. Brown comps and why they're there. Love seeing that he's back. Great late round pick. Him and Caleb Douglas looking like the top 2 in Miami. And shout out Pat Mayo. Again, I do that show right before this one on Mondays. But he had a good point where it's like, would it be the most incredulous thing if Chris Bell and Caleb Douglas outproduce Casey Concepcion and Denzel Boston? I'd rather have Malik Willis on the ball and Deshaun Watson over Shedeur Sanders as well. We got Judy in Cleveland, at least having some sort of an issue. Something to say about those targets. There's not one in Miami right now. Something to think about. I prefer in those later stages of the draft to tack on handcuff running backs or to fill my late round tight end or quarterback need, okay? But there is something to be said about Chris Bell being a pretty good late round dart, particularly for those in 20-plus round drafts. I'm Bell over Douglas, by the way. Minnesota Vikings rested pretty much everyone. This did include Juwan Jennings, which was good because we saw Ty Felton kind of working a little bit ahead of him last time out. That said, Felton maybe helped his case, man. Caught a nice 50-yard snag, deep ball from J.J. McCarthy. He looked a little bit erratic out there. Kyler Murray, QB1 season. Gotta love it. New England Patriots also resting their starters, but we got another Kyle Williams showcase. This dude is dicing up defenses, man. I love to see it. This preseason now already, guys, 4 catches, 111 yards, and not 1, but 2 touchdowns, just eviscerating man coverage pretty much every step along the way. So why can't we just does what DeMario Douglas does, the offense just needs it? And not to even hate on Douglas. He's fine. He's good. He's shifty even. But I think Dobbs and AJB, rotate those dudes in the slot. I just think Kyle Williams and that field stretching ability, if Kayshon Bouttie's not going to be there. But it's crazy, man. There's depth now on the Patriots offense. Like Mac Hollins was good last year. Is he the odd man out? Efton Chisholm, probably. Kyle Williams and Kayshon Boutte. I would love to see these dudes get more opportunities because they really do seem to make the most of the ones they have. New Orleans Saints pretty much rested all their key contributors. This does not include Bryce Lance. However, we also had Barry and Brown not playing after it was the opposite last week. So kind of wonky usage from the Saints. There's also this quote from Mike LaFleur. Shout out to Coach Speak Index for bringing it up. Cardinals head coach Mike LaFleur is basically saying that the league sent them some data about how players, it's much more rare for them to get hurt in their inter-squad scrimmages against, not inter-squad, in their scrimmages against other teams that they do throughout the preseason. The injury rate for those are much lower than what we see in preseason games. So Mike LaFleur was talking about some of his usage patterns mirror that. the irony of him being the guy to give Jeremiah Love like 14 touches in the first half is not lost on me, but just not trying to put the most stock in every minute usage situation we see in the preseason, and that does happen to include Bryce Lance right now. So Chris Olave and Devon Bailey while Jordan Tyson is out. New York Football Giants rested most of their starters, but we're still trying to figure out this backfield situation. Tyron Tracy is not doing anything to help his cause, guys. We actually saw Devin Singletary straight up get the start in this one. He played all 8 snaps on drive 1 and produced Tracy on the ground as well. When we did see Tracy in there, he lost a fumble deep in enemy territory. Yikes. So at a minimum, man, if you guys have confidence that Tracy's for sure the next man up behind Scatterboo, well, I'd like to, smoke what you're smoking. And at a maximum, like, is he even going to make the team at this point after they allegedly brought in Najee Harris before the pass broke out just because they want someone to be a more significant contributor? So I have no idea what Najee looks like in the year 2026 coming off an Achilles injury, but apparently good enough in this group for the Giants to sign him in the first place. So obviously Greg Roman never exactly been a stranger to committees. Maybe all this means it's just the Cam Scatterboo show, but the usage has not been great, guys. I'm going to be Scatterboo is one of those guys where I could see him playing 85% of the snaps in week 1, or I could see him playing 50%. Very much, I don't want to say an open backfield because Scatterboo is the starter, but man, just given the other names here and given the usage we've seen so far, a lot of question marks for an offense we're not exactly expecting consistent fireworks out of. Darnell Mooney did not play. He was the best man at his brother's wedding. Shout out to the Mooney family. Malachi Fields maybe has a leg up on number 2 duties. He exited the game following one drive while Darius Slayton and Calvin Austin continued to play out there. Shout out Calvin Austin, one of my favorite backup wide receivers in the NFL. That dude has a lot of fun with the football in his hands. New York Jets, Jets. Geno Smith, perfect 7 for 7, 65 yards and a touchdown on drive 1. Shout out Jelani Woods, massive human being. Look good, man. Look more like the guy that people are trying to manifest that 2022, 2023 version and thinking with their pair of stud first-round tackles, with guys like Garrett Wilson and A.D. Mitchell, who both put great routes on tape, and with first-rounders like Kenyon Sadiq and Omar Cooper. And hey, even Breece Hall coming back from that groin injury, there could be enough pieces to make it work. And yeah, that's the bull case for the Jets. I don't think it's crazy, but there are going to be bad offenses in the league, and the last 10 years tell us, as well as last year for Geno specifically, the Jets could be one of them. I continue to be very dubious about this situation inside the first 4 or 5 rounds of drafts, but man, watching Garrett Wilson out there, said it once, I'll say it again. With my eyes, he's the second best Ohio State wide receiver I have watched behind only Jeremiah Smith. Obviously, Michael Thomas, Jackson Smith-Njigba have done more at the NFL level than Garrett Wilson. But if Garrett gets 170 targets this year, Geno leans on him, goes for 1,500 yards and 10 touchdowns. To quote Nate Diaz, I would not be surprised. So A.D. Mitchell, though, and Cooper and Sadiq, there is more target competition in New York than in past years. I still question if we're even going to get Geno for 17 games, given the likelihood and what Vegas tells us that this will be a bad football game. But man, just always scary fading some of these top tier wide receivers, even if we do have reasons for it. Speaking of Omar Cooper, though, yeah, back to wide receiver 1 on the depth chart. Not 1, but he's with the starting offense, okay? Isaiah Williams' starting wide receiver season lasted all of 1 week. It was Omar Cooper 4 routes to 1 ahead of Williams with the starters. So not, again, expecting too much out of Cooper, but at the very late stages of your draft, at some point, you just say, let me go ahead and draft this first rounder and see what happens. Mason Taylor still tight on 1 with Kenyon Sadiq dealing with the hernia injury. Philadelphia Eagles starters rested in this one, including Mr. Tank Bigsby, but we had fun performances from the other running backs here, guys. Will Shipley looks like he lived in the weight room, man. I think it was his first carry of the game. He freaking put a Patriots linebacker on the ground. Vicious stiff arm from Will Shipley. I drafted a lot of Will Shipley last year, thinking he was the direct handcuff to Saquon. Then, of course, they traded for Bigsby after week 1 when Shipley got hurt. I believe in the talent. I just didn't know he had that sort of dog in him physically wise. So shout out Will Shipley. I don't think it's really going to matter for the season, but hey, still a fun play. And then Carson Steele, guys. I don't know about you, but I consumed a few beverages on Saturday night. Wasn't exactly zoned in on every play. I'm watching the film on Sunday. Jumped over not 1, but 2 defenders out there. Pretty clean hurdles too, man. Carson Steele. Shout out. Again, won't matter, but shout out Carson Steele. Pittsburgh Steelers scored 0 points in this one. We did get one nice throw from Drew Aller while fading away. It's kind of the most Drew Aller thing ever to be flashing so much in the preseason. Maybe he finally puts it all together. But again, you watch the dude for long stretches at Penn State, or if you're, a draft person who pays no attention to football, college football, which I don't get, guys. I don't understand how it's possible. I'm not trying to shame people. Come in. There's great analysts who only watch college football players from February to April. But just when LSU's playing Bama on Saturday night, you don't figure out a way. It's 2026. Flat screens are like $150. Buy a second one. Let the missus watch The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives or whatever the hell is on these days. Somebody feed Phil. That's or Phil's Got to Eat. I think it's Somebody Feeds Phil. That's my favorite Mrs. Hartitz show. I don't know. Get a second TV and watch some college football. It's awesome. I just love it. I don't understand why people just wouldn't want to watch it. But anyway, I kind of noticed that sentiment with Drew Aller during this draft season. They're like, oh man, it's Drew Aller. Look at some of these throws. It's like, yeah, the Boise State game was cool. That's the best performance we pretty much ever saw from Aller and anything close to resembling a big game, just one after another. So at some point, you want to be that big dog, man. You got to be a big dog in big games. Haven't seen that from Aller yet. Maybe I'm just, a Buckeye hater, but, he's an Ohio boy. I'd love to see Aller work out. I'd love to see every quarterback work out, man. Football is more fun when we have great quarterbacks out there. So, right now, Drew Aller flashing. Outplayed my guy, Willie Howard. Maybe, just maybe in position to be the QB3 in Pittsburgh. But yeah, no Aaron Rodgers or Mason Rudolph. So a lot of words about non-fantasy relevant stuff there. In the backfield, though, this was a little fantasy relevant. Most of the starters rested, but not the running backs. Jaylen Warren got the start, but rotated during the first three drives with Rico Dowdle. They both did play 10 snaps, and they were both done for the day at the same time. They even split the third down snap, so it really does seem like it's going to be, 50-50 situation. I lean towards Rico Dowdle. Some of the reports coming out of camp even saying Jaylen Warren's had a couple issues with ball security. As we know, ball security is job security. And just, again, with the Mike McCarthy familiarity factor with Rico, I agree. Warren is maybe underrated with what he can do between the tackles, and I don't think he's, out of place at the goal line, but I think Rico Dowdle's a little bit underrated with what he can do in the passing game as well. So 50-50 for me in round 7 or 8. I am happy to draft a Steelers running back, whoever happens to be on the board. Usually Rico is cheaper, so I usually do draft him. Wide receiver, Jeremy Bernard, next man up behind DK Metcalf and Michael Pittman alongside Roman Wilson. It was actually, let's see. It was Roman Wilson playing more snaps out of the slot, which was actually different than what we saw in the first week of the regular season. Something to keep in mind there, because we're assuming Metcalf is going to be, the X, Pittman's going to be the Z, and then we just got to try to see who's going to be the slot guy. I don't think it's really going to matter. I know Mike McCarthy's run a lot of 11 personnel in his past stops, but Darnell Washington, Pat Fryermuth, guys, that's over 90 million reasons just right there to keep two tight ends on the field a little more often. I think Aaron Rodgers feels better when he's got big man Darnell Washington being basically a third offensive tackle for them out there. I would put my chip on Jeremy Bernard overall. I think he can do a little more after the catch, getting design touches than Roman Wilson. Answer probably just no. Mention the tight ends. They're splitting snaps. Don't think either one's going to be overly relevant while they are both healthy. A couple more teams to get to, guys. Talking to Strib Club, but first want to give a shout out to our friends over at Splash Survivor. Pair of contests totaling $150K in guaranteed dollars. We got the NFL Survivor, which is a traditional Survivor League, $15 entry fee, and also the Touchdown Survivor, which is player-based, basically an anytime Touchdown Survivor League. Very cool stuff. $25 entry fee for that one. I'm leaning towards the Jaguars in week 1, guys. They got Cleveland Browns. They got Deshaun Watson. It's also in Duval County. So, yeah, Jaguars, right? They got to be freaking 10-point favorites in that game. So what are the NFL week 1 lines? Let's do this together right now. And I get the whole point where you don't want to burn a great Survivor team early. I wouldn't really consider the Jaguars to be part of that group. Let's see the biggest spreads for week 1. Yep, Jacksonville 7.5 over Cleveland. The Lions are 7 over the Saints. I think the Saints are alive or dogging the Browns. I don't know about you guys. Chargers over Cardinals, 10.5. I don't know. While Jacoby's out there, man, we know the Cardinals can score. That would just be a very Charger thing to lose 31-30 week 1 or something. I wouldn't mind saving them. So, yeah, those are the top 3 games. I'm leaning the Jaguars. But, yeah, guys, Splash Fantasy, again, love kind of going through the survivor thought process. Myself and Theo Grimminger are competing as well. So, if all the money isn't, enough for you, you can go ahead and just try to take us down. Splashsports.com/RotoWire. Use promo code RotoWire and get a 50% deposit match and 100% payout boost. Again, splashsports.com/RotoWire. Don't forget to use that promo code RotoWire only at Splash Survivor. The San Francisco 49ers, guys, we got Brock Purdy out there for the first drive. And then we got Mac Jones, 13 points on 5 second quarter drives, made some pretty nice throws along the way. Tight coverage to De'Zhaun Stribling. And another one down the sideline to Stribling that unfortunately dropped. Otherwise could have been 6 points. So speaking of Stribling, continued the quest towards Canton. Caught 4 of 5 targets for 46 yards. And again, even the incomplete one was a nice double move where you would like to think 9 times out of 10, he's going to come down with that one. So we did see him play just 1 of 7 snaps with multiple tight ends on the field. Demarcus Robinson and Deebo Samuel were instead out there. But then we're also hearing that Deebo Samuel maybe got demoted for Jalen Watkins at practice on Sunday. Here's the thing with Strib Club. I keep coming around more and more. Week 1, assuming Mike Evans is healthy, and my God, every freaking practice update is this dude's banged up with something else. But if we get Mike Evans, George Kittle, and Christian McCaffrey out there, no, I don't think anyone's going to feel that great about starting Stribling. But what do you guys think the chances are of Evans, CMC, and Kittle playing all 17 games? I push back on certain players only being labeled injury prone. But for those guys, if we had to do a 1 to 10 scale for every player being how injury prone they are, I think we're getting a pretty high number for those 3 dudes. I have Stribling top 100 players in the wide receiver 4 range. I think round 9 or 10 is great. It's not going to be a situation, I think, a lot of times where you're going to catch him sliding there. Maybe more so in your traditional home league formats. Round 9, 10 Stribling, priority click. Go get him. Do it. The question is, how high up do we want to chase the man? He did injure his shoulder, considered day-to-day. He was already back at practice, though, in a non-contact injury. I'm not too worried about it. It doesn't sound like the 49ers are, but of course we have another injury factor here. With Stribling, I'm not even going to sit here and say he's the second coming of Jerry Rice necessarily. It's not like he's gone out there and, 18 yards per catch. Like, look at this. I mean, he's honestly been tightly covered on a lot of these plays. They've been pretty good balls. He's shown off strong hands. He's got some speed. I saw the freaking curl against Georgia. He just turned on the Jets. See ya. And it's good to see him getting a downfield target, even if he didn't come up with it. This Strib Club is provocative. That fact is not lost on me. The thing I go back to, which again is getting me to want to bump him up even higher in the ranks, think about some of these wide receiver games we've seen from the 49ers. Kendrick Bourne had back-to-back games with 142 yards last season. We had the Richie James COVID game. Richie freaking James, 184 yards and a touchdown on Thursday Night Football. Juwan Jennings is good, but Juwan Jennings was a third receiver, mostly just used for his blocking to start his career. Then when Ayuk got hurt and Deebo became ineffective and also banged up, what'd they do? They started feeding Juwan Jennings 175 yards and 3 touchdowns in a game. And a lot of them came with Kittle, came with CMC. Parasol's already out of the picture. I mean, if Richie James, Juwan Jennings, and Kendrick Bourne can put up week-winning fantasy numbers, you tell me the dude the 49ers thought enough of to take at the very beginning of round 2 can't do a good impression of that? As it stands in week 1, I don't think he's going to go crazy, but he does fit that underneath intermediate role where when you look up and you see 9 or 10 catches, I mean, it could remind me of what we saw a little bit like out of Emeka Egbuka for portions early of last season. I know he was catching more touchdowns, maybe a bad example, but so when I look at the ranks, and I've moved him up a ton, I just like round 6, round 7 Stribling seems crazy to me. And it seems like an overreaction on the surface, but let me start looking at it. I mean, who do I think is better, Casey Concepcion or De'Zhaun Stribling? I think it's Stribling, but if we're projecting even-ish volume, who's got the higher upside? I think it's one of those guys getting injured, and it's Stribling, right? I don't know if there's a scenario other than KC being just a complete dog, which he might be, of him just being a must-start guy out of Cleveland. Move Stribling over him. Stribling versus Cortland. See how high I can move up Stribling on the show. Stribling versus Cortland Sutton. Easy. I never liked drafting Cortland Sutton. Stribling versus Matthew Golden. Michael Wilson, Jordan Addison, Josh Downs, Stephon Diggs, Chris Godwin, Jaden Reed, DK Metcalf, Quentin Johnston, BTJ, Marvin Harrison Jr., Roma Dunze. I mean, Dunze was the first guy in my head where I'm like, no, absolutely not. And even then, it wasn't that loud of a voice. You know what I'm saying? I think that's getting caught up too much. Top 30 treatment is probably crazy. But then Kendrick Bourne, Richie James. BTJ had a ridiculous first season. Jacoby Myers is banged up. We love the Chargers offense. Is QJ good at football? I think he's all right. We don't know if Stribling's amazing. I'm giving Chris Godwin and Stephon Diggs respect. God, it's tough. Michael Wilson was like the wide receiver 2, second half of last season. Man, he certainly deserves to be in that tier. I'll probably try to do an even deeper dive on this week. I have him ahead of Michael Pittman, Cortland Sutton, Casey Concepcion, Mekhi Lemon, Xavier Worthy, Alec Pierce, amongst others. He's right there with Golden, Wilson, Addison, Downs. God, I got to move him ahead of those guys. I'm putting him right behind Chris Godwin and Jaden Reed. Wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4, right around that. De'Zhaun Stribling, hype train's going up for a good reason. He looks good out there. Every report has been glowing. And just that role in the offense, man, I can see him vacuuming up targets. And every single time that we hear anything negative about Kittle, CMC, and Evans just continues to help Stribling. So we're getting there. Welcome to Strip Club. Tight end, Jake Tonjes. Kittle's off the pup. Things are looking good. Potentially for week 1. They are in Australia, though. If you guys are doing some of these higher stakes leagues, FFPC, for example, you get what's called a free look at these guys. So after, I think, the first game of the year, basically that 49ers game, it's the first couple games, like just the primetime games, you get a free look at the guy where if Jake Tonjes goes for 90 yards and a touchdown, you're able to actually insert him in your starting lineup. Kind of crazy, but that's how it works. So yeah, round 19, round 20, pick Jake Tonjes. Why not? Seattle Seahawks Super Bowl champion Drew Lock threw a 36-yard touchdown to Elijah Arroyo on drive 1. Otherwise, that was about it. So looking at Arroyo, he could be a reason why A.J. Barner maybe held back a little bit. But, we're kind of talking about a low-end tight end too anyway, so not too big of a deal. But that would be, again, one of the more not a top 10 outstanding question I have for the preseason, but, one of the more meaningful notes for Seattle would be, is A.J. Barner going to be more of a 60% route guy or an 80% route guy? The bigger news would just be Jadarian Price really getting rested for the entire preseason. It does seem like they're ready to go ahead and unleash this dude once week 1 comes along. But, Helani, Emmanuel Wilson going to be involved as well. And what we've heard, Zach Charbonnet doesn't seem like he's going to be out for as long as originally expected. So with Price, I have him right ahead of Cam Scatterby, Quinshawn Judkins, Bucky Irving. He's right there in the same tier as guys like Dave Montgomery and Bashaw Tootin. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 2 drives from Baker Mayfield. I don't think he threw a pass more than like a yard downfield. Very un-Baker-like performance. So disappointing to see, but was just the preseason, so I'll shut up. Bucky Irving got to start, carried the ball in each of the first 3 plays before calling it a day. And then Kenneth Gainwell came in, and then Josh Williams came in before Sean Tucker. Very, very interesting, guys. So they rotated the rest of the game. I think Sean Tucker is still the RB3, but I do wonder if maybe Zach Robinson is not going to be as willing to do the Sean Tucker gimmick at the goal line. Because that's been my issue. Bucky could smash if he's out there and if it's no Tucker, and then it's like 70-30 or 65-35 Bucky over Gainwell. I could also see it being 50-50 with Gainwell and Tucker not mattering. Still doesn't matter for Bucky not being a great pick. But man, round 6 Bucky, I can get behind that. Wide receivers, again, didn't address any of their top 4 dudes. So we had Ted Hurst, Cameron Johnson with a K, because of course, and David Sills. Notable, I thought that Hurst day was over when Mayfield left the game. The other guys kept playing for at least a little bit longer. So I think it's Ibuka, Godwin. Hopefully Ibuka's toe. It's going to be okay soon. I am okay using that as a tiebreaker in the early rounds of fantasy drafts. Ibuka, Godwin. I think Jalen McMillan will be the third guy, but Hurst just makes more sense as the field stretcher, the bigger bodied sort of guy. This is another one, man. If they rotate their top 4 receivers and then also get Tez Johnson 10, 15% routes, because Tez is pretty legit out there, man. He made a hell of a lot of great plays last year. Tampa Bay wide receivers have a sneaky floor. If it ends up looking like 2024, 2025 Green Bay Packers rotating 4 or 5 guys per game in an offense that is good, maybe not great, we shouldn't be shocked. Tennessee Titans, not fun to watch play football this preseason, guys. You listening right now have as many catches in the NFL as Carnell Tate. Not ideal. Can we say that? Cam Ward joins Tyrod Taylor as the only 2 quarterbacks to not have a completion on passes thrown 10 yards downfield this preseason with a minimum of 5 attempts. There's 59 quarterbacks in that sample size. He probably should have had one to Gunnar Helm. That was Cam Ward's best play. I think it was his last one. Got outside of pressure, floating down the sideline. He kind of hit that like Josh Allen pass that Josh Allen does it like twice a year, and you find out he's like the only quarterback who's done it. He's had 10 of them over the course of the past 3 years, like literally the last foot of the sideline. Ward lobbed it out there, and Gunnar Helm just couldn't get 2 feet down. He's still playing behind Daniel freaking Bellinger in routes with the first team offense. So yeah, Gunnar Helm, not good. But Cam Ward, man, just rocky. The numbers only look as good as they look, and they don't look that good. 5.8 yards per attempt, but he had Tony Pollard like a 33-yard pass on a swing route that just no one covered him. So he's not running around well. He's just not a very fast dude. We saw him get chased down. The dude knocked the ball out. Cam, hold on to the ball, bro. You already drop it yourself plenty. So if the ball is in your hand, tuck that thing. It's not looking great in Tennessee, guys. Could Wan'Dale Robinson scam his way to wide receiver 4 status again in PPR land? Yes, sure. I'd like to think at some point in his career, Carnell Tate will catch a pass. He is the number 1 guy out there in terms of route rates. Usually not going out of my way for Carnell Tate in that range of wide receivers, but as Christian Watson and Parker Washington and DJ Moore and these other guys keep getting pushed up, man, he's starting to stick out there. And I'm still not loving the idea of clicking on the name. So Carnell Tate, Titans in general, if you don't leave your redraft league with one of these dudes in your draft, I do not think it's the end of the world. What a video that used to be back in the day. Tony Pollard did play the first drive, done for the day. Tajay Spears played the second and third drives alongside Ward before he was done. Nicholas Singleton tending to a foot issue. So has been a little more 1A, 1B with Tajay. I think eating more into the role than maybe we were hoping he even would. So that's been, I guess, one bullish note. I still do worry. I don't think it's quite Ray Davis, Ty Johnson-esque. It's probably closer to what we would see from Keaton Mitchell and Kamani Vidal. But I do still worry if they really would treat Spears as a 3-down back. But, 12, 13 carries, 5, 6 targets still goes a long way in full PPR land. And last but not least, because I got things to say here, Washington Commanders, guys. Jaden Daniels played 3 plays, incompletion, sack, and handed off to Katron Allen. Electric stuff. Ethan Kaliakmanis. What you gonna do when Kalikamania runs through you, brother? Runs wild on you, brother. Oh, almost had it. This dude was fun, man. Multiple downfield shots. Moving around in the pocket well. Got freaking drilled by a free rusher. Still found Antonio Williams down the sideline. The Minnesota Rutgers product. I gave him a little hype vid on the old Twitter sphere. And Minnesota and Rutgers fans, I couldn't even believe that he actually played that well. They said you can usually get one good half out of Athan, Athan. But yeah, we got one good half this last Saturday. And I am proud and happy that I got to watch Ethan Kaliakmanis play football. As someone who's been a lifelong fan of Ethan Kaliakmanis for a good day now, what you going to do when Kalikamania runs wild on you, brother? Backfield, Katron Allen, only guy with Jaden Daniels. Saw Robert Henry, Craig Reynolds a little bit more. No Bill or Rashad White just yet. McLaurin, Diggs, Treylon Burke with Daniels. Diggs is in the slot, which is interesting. Came off the field for the one play with multiple tight ends, but, just one play. Not too worried about it right now. Antonio Williams did make a nice catch over the middle, the Clemson rookie, slot receiver, but he was also the 7th freaking receiver to find the field in the game, man. Like Jalen Lane's getting out there before Antonio Williams. Really tough to expect anything in the early going. We'll see on the waiver wire later. Last relevant note, Chigozie Okonkwo, guys, 11 of 13 snaps in these first 2 drives. That's good, all right? We had the Isaiah Likely notes last week where, I didn't even put much stock in him. He just wasn't on the field for run plays. It seemed intentional for me, but Gunnar Helm is another one. Like we've had these situations where we've worried. Dalton Kincaid is another one. Are they actually get the full-time role? That's been a concern for Chiggy over the years. He had the full-time role. He spent 7 snaps in line, 3 in the slot, 1 out wide. With Diggs in town, it's no longer, oh man, could he be a number 2 pass game option? Can he be a number 3 pass game option? But hey, I don't have the most faith in Washington with a first-time play caller without your franchise left tackle and with probably the worst running back room in the league. But Jaden Daniels did lead this offense to being the 5th-ranked scoring group with probably a worse version of playmakers around him. I mean, that running back room was Brian Robinson, Austin Eckler. Terry was going nuts. But otherwise, it was Diami Brown. Luke McCaffrey couldn't find the field. Old man Zach Ertz. I mean, McLaurin, Diggs, Chiggy with year 2 Bill, giving a little more explosiveness. Okonkwo, he would be. I would say this too, like, I wouldn't want to go into week 1 with Chig as my starting tight end. But like Goddard and Chig, double tapping late, I've heard of worse ideas. Anyway, guys, that's going to wrap up this edition of the show where I talk about the preseason. One more week. I remember last year more teams playing their starters in week 3 of the preseason than anticipated. I'm a little dubious that we'll see a repeat of that. But hey, if they do, we'll be right back here next Monday breaking it down once again. So if you guys like the video, please like the video. And that subscribe button always helps as well. Draft week, everyone. Going to have a good 5 or 6 big ones coming at you guys. Getting Dwayne McFarland, Rich Rebar, John Daigle, some of the brightest minds in the industry, talking ball, having a good time, going through drafts, hopefully making good picks. And if we make bad ones, well, you guys can let us know about it and hopefully not let that be you when you happen to be on the clock. So very, very excited. Football very much in the air. It is great to be able to watch it again here on the weekends and not to go to a bar and pretend to want to have to talk to people. You guys know how those things go. But anyway, meantime, I'll be hanging out. As always, give your mom a call, say what's up, be a good person. Yeah, sounds good to me. Anyway, I'm out here. Take care, everyone. Goodbye.